All right, ready? It's 7 o'clock. Oh, 1 minute. Okay.
We all look like the Frito Bandito.
Hey. Nobody signed up? Okay. Nobody signed up for the public hearing?
Yeah, makeup all.
Before we get started, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows that we have a public hearing tonight. Everybody wanted to sign up to speak at the public hearing on the zoning change that we're going to make tonight. Also, we are sign-up sheet for the agenda items for the beginning of the meeting. Anybody want to speak on those agenda items, they can sign up. And seeing none, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. It is 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the July 7th, 2020 meeting of the Irmo Town Council to order. I'd like to begin with the public hearing on the zoning change. Is there anybody here to speak on the public hearing on the zoning change on Fork Avenue from residential single family to neighborhood commercial? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. We're now beginning the regular council meeting of the Irmo Town Council tonight. I would like to begin with doing the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, thank you for what you do in guiding our decisions that we have here tonight. Please take care of our country. This COVID virus is very serious. We know that you won't give us anything that we can't handle. All we ask you to do is you guide us through this process and relieve us from this plague. In God's name we pray, amen. Thank you very much. Reading of the minutes from June 6, 2020. Are there any changes to the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the minutes of June 16, 2020, say aye. There is a change? Okay, we make a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'd love to second that.
Okay, great. Mr. Kelly seconded. Is there all in favor of the motion, the minutes as written? Say aye.
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 All opposed? It's unanimous. The reading of the minutes from June 30th, 2020. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Condon made a motion. Mr. Bush, Mr. Sickinger seconded. Are there any changes? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Report of standing. Mr. Brown, are there any changes to the administrative briefing?
Just a couple things, Mr. Mayor. The auditors are coming to visit the town of Irmo on August 11th and 12th for our annual audit. And I'm also working on a grant with the rural infrastructure, possibly to get the widening done for Mower Street, which is on the other side of Lake Murray Boulevard. The only requirement for the grant is we have to pay for all the engineering, design, and survey, and then we pay 50% match of whatever the construction cost is. So I'll come back to council once we have a firm idea what that cost is going to be to see if we still want to proceed.
Okay. Are there any changes for Mr. Brown? Anybody have any questions, Mr. Brown? In the administrative briefing? Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none. Move on. Consideration of communications. Are there any consideration of communications?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Sickinger.
I apologize.
No problem. Are we broadcasting? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So I received an email from a resident who related to the coronavirus and the mask ordinance, and he suggested that the town work with community services, the Richland County, Columbia City Senior Cares, I think it's called, program, to work with senior residents to help them deliver medicine or get their groceries, work in collaboration with Kroger. And in addition to seniors, anyone who is, in poor health that would not want to be out right now. I think that's something that we're probably going to need to put some thought into. But
Is that to help us after we pass it, or?
it's just in general for the residents of Irmo who are immunosuppressed, or for seniors who may not want to be out. A suggestion that we work to create some kind of community support organization. Not organization, a community support to assist them staying home.
Okay, got it. Are there any other receipt of communication?
If I could,
Mr. Bush?
I just wanted to summarize. I've had a lot of communications that I've received through email and various sorts. But to summarize, it's in regards to a mask ordinance that we have on our agenda. And the majority have outlined medical purposes, and that we are facing a hurricane season. And if we continue to have numbers going up, that we could be in a bit of a bind if there was an evacuation from the coast. And so that was one point that came out of that. But generally, it was in favor. Thanks.
I don't understand, what do you mean in the bind if we have a hurricane? Can you explain that, please?
EMD emergency, so they do some workshops prior to hurricane season to kind of develop a plan if the coast had to be evacuated inland, and how we would handle, for example, shelters with social distancing and issues of that nature, and lengthy reports, very lengthy reports, and difficult to digest. But I think that to summarize, there is a concern with if they have to evacuate a hospital, for example, on the coast, and bring them inland to Florence or Columbia or one of the areas that would be a safe zone, that it could definitely overburden the healthcare system in our areas. So that's really all I have.
Okay, so I guess I don't understand what the point is. Can y'all help me a little bit?
Comments he had
Yeah.
in favor of the mask.
Oh, I got you on that part, but if they have a hurricane down the coast and they evacuate everybody up here, that's going to make a burden on
Mr. Mayor,
us?
sorry.
Oh.
Can
you explain that?
Sure. So, and this is, again, going to receipt communication because I received the same communication as the councilman. So the primary concerns are that hospital capacities right now are between 80 and 90%.
Right.
And in addition, shelters that would traditionally be set up for evacuees from the coast during the course of an emergency either going to be really challenging to set up because of the requirement in terms of space and the number of people that they can have in a enclosed space in the first place. So as a result, it's really important that we diminish the number of COVID people who are positive in the state, and especially in our area, because if we can lower the hospital numbers, then the people who need to be in the hospital when they evacuate from the coast actually have space in those hospitals.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I received calls in favor of the mask, but I received quite a few against it from restaurant owners in our town who said, what else can we take? You're going to, I did not understand it until they explained it in great financial detail, what this would do to them.
The mask.
The mask, yeah. And they're having a problem to start with because of the unemployment pay per week. It's hard to compete with $970 a week from the government when you're trying to hire a staff. So two of the restaurants, two of the bigger ones, have had to get a whole new chef staff and a whole new wait staff because they can't hire anybody that was there before because of the unemployment. I understand that. And they're suffering, and while I think the masks are probably beneficial, you know, I have great sympathy for our restaurants, and I don't want anything to happen to them. So I don't know how I'm going to vote.
That's fine, and I can appreciate that. I've had calls myself.
Mayor?
Bill?
I think she's hacked my emails.
She hacked your email?
I think she's hacked my emails.
Okay, you got the same call too, or the same?
Well, it's along the same subject line. I have polled and surveyed conversationally with 7 restaurateurs in the last 2 days, and all 7 have told me since Columbia's mask went into play, their walk-in business is down. So
Wait a minute.
So
Since Columbia's
correct, because
implemented their mask,
everybody's wearing masks.
their business went down.
Yes, because
In
they
Irmo,
yes,
their
because they
business
knew
went down?
down. They knew that it was coming, and so they trying to be good citizens, and they don't want this in their restaurants. Okay, that's the last thing any of these and some retail, not just restaurants. They don't want COVID in there, so they're going to do everything. So they see that and they go, okay, we're going to do that. Since they've done that, in about a week to 10 days, all of their walk-in business is down. Now, that's the opposite of what you would hear in the national media, that the masks are going to help them. It's not helping them here. And so that's a good point, Kathy. That was what all I was going to talk about was the simple fact that it is not helping them as a retailer / restaurateur at this point in time. Maybe it's a blip, and then everybody kind of gets with the patent. But if they do not have good curb service, to-go service, they're in real trouble. So that's my 2 cents on that subject. I've got a lot of that, and I've gotten I would say it's 60-40 the information feedback I've gotten against the mask. So it's all across the board.
Well, that's fine. We're gonna talk about it more in depth when we get down into that section, but I appreciate the correspondence notification. Are there any more considerations for communications? Seeing none, presentation by citizens on agenda items. I have one citizen, Ms. Barbara Waldman from Columbia. Ms. Waldman, if you would come to the podium and pull that mic down so we can hear you. Thank you so much.
How's that? I just wanted to speak tonight in support of the Emergency Ordinance 2015. I fully support that ordinance. We're in the midst of a public health epidemic or pandemic, and as a town, I think we should be promoting any initiatives which are in the best interest of the health of our citizens, for our town, our state, and our nation. In the present situation with COVID-19, those initiatives include promoting hand washing, use of hand sanitizers, avoiding touching one's face, social distancing, including avoiding large crowded venues, especially indoors, and wearing masks or face coverings that cover both your nose and your mouth. Covering the nose and mouth will reduce the trajectory of virus-laden particles that are coming out of your mouth or your nose when you're speaking, coughing, or even sneezing. Masks vary. We can look around this room and see a lot of different ones, and they are not 100% effective at blocking this virus, but they will help to reduce the spread of COVID-19 by reducing the number of particles that are being dispersed and the distance that those particles will travel away from an individual. Wearing masks help to reduce the transmission of COVID-19 to others by individuals who are pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic. In other words, they may not even know that they're carrying the virus, and they could be inadvertently spreading it to others. When used in addition to social distancing, hand washing and sanitizing, and avoiding face touching, masks will help to further reduce the spread of COVID-19. And I think we all want to see that. We all want to get this virus as much under control as possible so that we can go back to normal, or at least the new normal. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else? Oh, come up here.
My name, I'm not used to the process.
Come up to the microphone and tell us your name, please, and where you live at.
My name is Danielle Streep, and I live
I'm
at...
sorry, you
my
didn't
name is-
sign up. Can I get your name, please?
My name is Danielle, D-A-N-I-E-L-L-E. Last name is Stroop, S-T-R-O-U-P-E. And I live at 1706 Quail Valley West.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Stroop.
Call me Danielle. My mother-in-law was Miss Streep.
Okay, Ms. Danielle.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm here in opposition to forcing citizens to wear masks. I think we're all adults, and if a person would like to wear a mask to protect themselves, then that's fine. But I'll give you an example of me in Columbia the other day. I stopped by the store on Harbison. When I walked in, they said, "You can't come in because you don't have a mask." I said, "Not a problem." I turned right around, came into the Irmo district, and I purchased my goods right here. If we start imposing this mandate and forcing businesses, we're going to lose that revenue. People will do exactly what I did. They'll go to the next town that doesn't have the mask ordinance and purchase from them. Excuse me, I'm a smoker. But anyway, I know it's a big controversy, and I do work in the healthcare arena, so I very much respect. When I came through, I treat everybody as if they have HIV because that's the way I was taught. I don't go around, licking people, getting in people's spaces. And I think that if people protect themselves without mandating that everybody wear a mask, then I think that that's a good happy medium for the citizens, and we in Irmo won't lose that revenue. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Nobody else? Okay, I see nobody else, then we're going to the agenda. Unfinished business. Third and final reading of ordinance 2012 to annex Richland County tax maps, blocks 3, 1, 2, 3, and 5, and 6. General commercial, is there a motion for third and final reading?
I so move.
And is there a second?
Second?
Is there any conversation? Mr. Bush,
I have nothing.
Mr. Sickinger?
No?
Anybody else? Mr. Bush, Mr. Condon? Bill? Any-
I'm good.
All right. Okay. Is, ready to vote? Clerk, will you read the roll, please? We're voting for the approval, third and final reading of the ordinance 2012.
Okay. Mr. Bush,
Yay.
Ms. Condom,
Yay.
Mr. Danielson,
Yay.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yes?
Mayor Walker.
Yay. Thank you. Third and final reading of ordinance 2013 to rezone Fork Avenue from residential single-family to neighborhood commercial. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
So moved?
Mr. Sickinger made a motion. Is there,
I'll second that.
Mr. Bush seconded? Is there any conversation? Mr. Dennison, Ms. Bush, Ms. Condon? Okay. The clerk read the roll, please. Favor of approval of third and final reading.
Mr. Bush,
Yay.
Ms. Condom,
Yay.
Mr. Danielson,
Yay.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yay.
and Mayor Walker.
Yay. Unanimous. Third and final reading of ordinance 20-14 to amend the Irmo Town Code for the residential rental property ordinances, standards, and residential units standards. Is there a motion for third and final reading?
So moved.
Mr. Sickinger? Oh, I'm sorry. Was that Mr. Danielson? Mr. Danielson made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bush, second. Is there any conversation? Mr. Sickinger, Ms. Bush, Ms. Condon? Okay. Will the clerk read the roll in favor of ordinance third and final reading?
Mr. Bush,
Yay.
Ms. Condom,
Yay.
Mr. Danielson,
Yay.
Mr. Sickinger,
Yay.
Mayor Walker.
Yay. It's unanimous. New business. First and only reading of emergency order 20-15, requiring all individuals to wear face coverings in retail and food service establishments within the town of Irmo, not to exceed 60 days. I put that on the agenda, so I'll make a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Sickinger, second. Okay. I'll start with the comments. As you know, we've been getting tons of emails, tons of comments for and against. This is not the end of the world by voting on this, but the citizens did elect us to lead, and that's what we're here to do, is to lead the town. One of the things that we have to understand is that this COVID virus is very serious. It is no joke. People are dying. People are dying from simply going to the grocery store unprotected, exposing themselves, unknowingly exposing themselves to this virus. Once you get it, sure, you might overcome it. It might be like a short-term flu. But in some cases, you get it and you don't recover. You're through. You're sick for a while. You're grasping for air. You can't breathe. It's a horrible way to die. And I've seen people in the hospital through video dying from COVID, people that are healthy as an ox. And it used to be only the older people were at risk. When I say older people, I'm considered a senior citizen now since I've got AARP membership. So having that, I consider myself at a higher risk than others. But now it's shifted. We got people that are in their 30s, 20s and 30s coming down with this and dying. So when we are asked to do anything we can do as a council and as elected officials to protect our citizens, I feel we must try to exercise anything we can do. We were elected to lead. COVID is ravaging South Carolina and Lexington County in particular, and Richland County in particular. These are the two highest cases in the state, is right here, Lexington, Richland County. So I'm not sure why an emergency ordinance like this would have opposition if we can save one life. If one life is saved, it's well worth it to tell people to wear masks to protect yourself. But even beyond that, people here are grown adults. You know, if you don't want to wear a mask, don't wear a mask. But if the fact that we even have to have this conversation is disheartening to me personally, that we have to even say we got to pass a law that requires you to protect yourself. You know, my mama used to tell me, and I'm not going off on a soapbox, but my mom used to tell me, if somebody's jumping off a building, a 10-story building, you're going to follow them just because they're jumping off the building and they make it? No, that's not the right thing to do. If somebody is not wearing a mask to protect themselves, a simple mask, and it's going to help them and help your neighbor protect you from spreading germs across each other, what's the problem? We need to stop being selfish and worry about ourselves only and worry about our neighbors. Our neighbors are at risk. We're at risk. And again, a simple wearing of a mask is not the end of the world. I'm not trying to trample on anybody's personal rights. But at the same time, we have a duty to protect our citizens, and this is not the time for misguided individual rights arguments. Other counties, other municipalities around us have passed this law. And quite frankly, you know, I'm not getting on the governor because he's a personal friend of mine. He should have took this initiative himself and did it at a state level. But yet he put it on us as elected local leaders to do it. So now here we are. We have City of Columbia has passed it. Town of Lexington has passed it. Even Richland County has passed it. But we don't pass it, it makes it virtually unenforceable. Even if we do pass it, it's probably going to be difficult to enforce. But people are grown adults out here. And if we say, look, put a mask on when you go out in public, or stay home, or do those things that will protect you from getting this very deadly, very vicious disease, I think it's our duty and our obligation as a council to do it. Now, it's not for the rest of your life. We have a sunset clause in here, which I have a problem with, but I'll talk about that in a minute. We don't have any penalties in here for businesses. We don't have really have a small penalty for persons not complying. But again, stop being selfish and worrying about yourself. Worrying about our neighbors and our other people in our community. But that's just my 2 cents. Mr. Sickinger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to preface, I have some slides to share with the town because I think that the information is important. Before I start, I'd like to read a letter from a Texas county judge. And you'll sense some emotion as I read it because I agree with what he had to say. He says, I recognized when I entered the mandatory mask order that there would be people who would not like it. That's okay, it comes with the territory. What has been most disappointing to me has been the level of insistence that many of my orders are a direct affront to their constitutional rights. The U.S. Supreme Court since 1794, after the Whiskey Rebellion, and time since has repeatedly held that these types of orders are allowed in certain circumstances and are in fact constitutional. Those who say otherwise are misinformed or depending on natural law, not constitutional law. I have not asked people to lay down their arms, surrender their right to free speech, or to be subject to having soldiers quartered in their homes. I've asked them to suffer the inconvenience of placing a 4x6 piece of material over their mouth and nose when in a business to protect their friends and neighbors. Individuals who seem to have no problem with a restaurant requiring shoes and a shirt go ballistic over a business asking them to wear a mask. 80 years ago, the greatest generation planted victory gardens, collected tin, rubber, and steel, had food ration books, and endured blackouts, all to support the war effort. Their sacrifices were significantly more weighty than the inconvenience this present order requires. When did it become that we all became so focused on our rights and not our obligations to our fellow men and women? Jesus said, "Greater love has no man than this, that he laid down his life for his friends." But we're not directing anyone to lay down their life. Galatians 6:2 says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." I wear a mask not because I am afraid, but because it is the one way of showing that I care about my neighbors. There's a lot we don't know about COVID, but the evidence suggests that wearing a mask helps to prevent the spread of the virus. If it does, as to what you said, Mr. Mayor, if wearing a mask prevents one person from dying, then isn't it worth that minor inconvenience? I want to move on to my slides. And I'm doing this because you're going to see a preponderance of data and evidence, because there should be no question, full stop, that this should pass. Go ahead, please. The first slide, and you can go back on the YouTube and watch these, so you can write down these links. These are all various studies to make it clear in terms of the scientific data that there is no question. We conclude that population-wide use of face masks could make an important contribution in delaying an influenza pandemic. Mask use also reduces the reproduction number, possibly even to levels sufficient for containing an influenza outbreak. Next. In this study, we found that the adherence to mask use significantly reduced the risk for influenza-like infection. Next slide. Both masks, in this case for this study, cotton t-shirts and surgical masks, significantly reduced the number of microorganisms expelled by volunteers. Although an interesting note, the surgical mask was 3 times more effective in blocking transmission than the homemade mask. Next slide, thank you. Simple experiment, holding a culture slide and coughing on it. 1 sneeze, singing, talking, and 2 coughs. Masked versus not masked. This is what, when you don't wear a mask, it's not about just protecting yourself. It is about protecting your neighbors, your friends at church, the friends at your social club, everybody that you care about in your community. This is what you're spreading if you are asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic. Next slide. Same thing, but just simply a cough or a sneeze. At 2 feet, 4 feet, and 6 feet, you can see why social distancing is so important. Next slide. This is a different study entirely, showing the average jet distance of a sneeze wearing different types of masks. You can see the value, even in a simple folded handkerchief, that it reduces that distance to 1 feet, 3 inches. Next slide. I got mask on the brain. So this is from the COVID tracking project. And what you're seeing here is, to be clear, the dark line that you see is the 7-day average. If you're looking at this slide and not recognizing that South Carolina is in trouble, then you are missing the point. Both new cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. Next slide. I didn't include dates after the 19th because those are all estimates. However, you already know, if you've been watching the news, what's been happening with our recent cases. Thank you. Next slide. This is a YouTube video. Does this work if you click play? No? Oh, no, try it. Hit play. This is a rolling heat map of infection. Yes, ma'am. If you just go on that screen and just, yep. There's no audio or anything, so.
South Carolina?
That's South Carolina.
Wow.
Next slide. That's okay. You just have to, because it had the video going. Here we are at deaths. Try to separate deaths from the number to an individual in your family or friends or social circle. Next slide.
Is that today's number?
No, this is to the 6th. So yeah, that's yesterday. So one of the things that I've been hearing in response is, well, of course our cases are up, we're testing more. Yeah, that's true. But what's also true is the percent positive has been on an ever increasing pace. What this means is that the community spread is drastic. We're at 20%. That means 1 out of every 5 people that they test broadly, not just with symptoms, have COVID. Next slide. And this is from DHEC itself. To wrap up, and I apologize and I thank the rest of the council for their patience. This is important to me, and it's something I've been concerned about since day one. I read today about travel advisories for people leaving South Carolina and going back to a different state. You want to talk about hurting the commerce in a state. Who wants to come to a state where when they get back from that trip, they have to self-quarantine? You want to talk about damages to business. What's going to damage a business more, a mask ordinance or a pandemic that's so out of control that we have to do another shutdown? How about just football? I know for some people it's like, taxes, whatever, and football. God, family, football. Well, if we don't have football, we won't have football if this continues in this rate. What about school? Right now they're saying, yeah, we're going to have school. I guarantee if this thing continues at this current pace, there's no way they can have school. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else? Mr. Danielson? Looking at your director.
First question is, do I get as much time as my esteemed colleague next to me?
As much time as you need, Mr. Danielson.
Okay, because you're not going to like anything that I have to say.
I will love everything you have to say, Mr. Danielson.
I appreciate Eric's passion on this, but I think we're all missing the point. And the point is, this is a pandemic. We are in trouble. But this isn't about masks. This isn't about, right here, what you're witnessing tonight is not about masks. It's not about public health. It's about politics. And the governor has let us down on this subject. The federal government has let us down. So there's a reason why. And I frankly don't really know the reason why. I think I know, but I'd be speculating. And I don't know that I want to speculate, but I do want to address the fact that I don't believe everything that I see, read, and hear. I just heard a couple of comments tonight, right here, sitting here, that Richland County and Columbia are the highest rate of COVID in the state. That's absolutely not true. Charleston and Horry County are the highest COVID numbers in the state. And by the way, Charleston, all of our mask-wearing council people here, that's where they want to go on a retreat in 2 weeks. I'm confused, okay? It confuses me. It really confuses me. I am all for masks. I think everybody needs to wear one. I think everyone who doesn't wear one is probably damaging their fellow citizens. But this is not about masks for me. This is about, who am I to tell you to wear a mask? Richland County already passed this ordinance, right? That's 3/4 of the town of Irmo. Lexington County will not have an ordinance. You know why Lexington County will not have an ordinance? They're conservative voters. This won't even come up in Lexington County. I am not a lemming. I am not a sheep. I worry about all of my citizens. I worry about everyone who votes. I worry about every family member. I wear this foolish mask. Actually, it's got my company on it. So it shows you I've been wearing masks. I'm all for wearing masks. I am not for politicizing a mask to take some kind of power or control over the citizens. What this tells me is that the 5 of us, we are telling you that you are not smart enough to wear a mask, and we're going to make you wear a mask. And I talked to the captain of our police department, would have been the chief, but I know he's 28 days out the door. So I went right to the captain. What a great chief you are, too, by the way. How many? 25. Sorry, I got the count off. and I talked to them, and this is unenforceable. What's next? Are we going to be like the city of Columbia, and we're going to hire people to go around the town in their little light blue uniforms and hand out summons and citations? Since the mask ordinance, I haven't even been in the city of Columbia. And I'm in the business of meeting with businesses. I'm in the business all day of talking to business people and employees of business people. That's what I do every day, day in and day out. So that's my issue. My issue is we don't even need to be having this conversation. But politically, this wasn't brought on by Henry. This was brought on by our town council, who thought that we needed to put an ordinance in play to tell you you're not bright and we don't trust you to wear a mask. Now, there's certainly a lot of you we don't trust to wear a mask, and peer pressure is going to make that happen. You will wear a mask out of peer pressure. My last comment, I don't want to be preached to. I'm tired of being preached to. I am no better than you, no smarter than you, no wiser than most of you. And who am I to tell you what you've got to do? You're not breaking the law. You are all law-abiding citizens. And now because you don't put a diaper on your face, you're going to be castigated in the town of Irmo. Peer pressure will do that, and I don't want it causing angst amongst our police and our citizenry, because they will be called to these situations. The last thing that I want to mention is I have struggled with this. I've struggled like this almost like nothing I've struggled with before. Personal health problems, family health problems, dilemmas. This has been painful for me. You can believe me or you cannot. It's okay. But this has been painful for me. And I don't want anybody to tell me about stats. I've read the stats. I also know Dr. Fauci lied to us, and now on June 12th tells us the masks, he lied to us because he was afraid we were going to use the masks up, and PPE would be in danger. All right? That PPE would not get to the frontline people. 3 months ago when he said masks, they don't work that great. They're okay. We don't really need to wear them. On June 12th, he admitted he lied to the American public. Where do the lies stop? Where's the outrage over that? He told you your life was less important than the frontline workers. That's what he told you. Now, I happen to have love and passion for the frontline workers. That's not the point. The point is now we have to listen. We've got to believe everything that we say. I've lost total faith. But I know the numbers and I agree. So wear the damn mask. Just wear the damn mask. But I'm not going to tell you to wear the mask. And I'm going to end with two things. I don't want to hear this, oh, Bill, you're detached. You really don't know. My daughter has COVID. You want passion? My daughter has COVID, 32 years old. Don't know how she got it. Don't have a clue. But I'm not going to tell you to wear a mask. Neither is she. And she's probably listening right now. So don't say it hasn't hit me at home. That's what it's about. It's about who has gave me the authority to tell you what to do. This is not what I was elected for. I did not run to sit here and tell you to wear face cloth. I'll tell you personally you need to wear it. I'll tell you you ought to wear it, and I will wear it. But I'm not telling you, I am not giving you a mandate to wear it. Last thing my wife said to me on the way out the door tonight, still knowing I'm struggling with this. Last thing she said to me, you going to wear your big boy pants tonight? That's what she said to me. You going to wear your big boy pants tonight? And I said, yeah, Peg, I'm going to wear my big boy pants. And I was finally at peace driving over here tonight. Thank you for your time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Danielson. Mr. Bush, you have any comments?
I think the two gentlemen have covered both sides of it pretty well. I'm struggling with it as well, but I'm falling back on the greater good. And to be selfish for our community, I do have concerns that as our hospitals potentially fill up, that if I get in a car wreck on the way home, that there may not be a bed available for me. And if there's some way that we can, obviously this ordinance is not going to be the end all that people are going to wear masks, but it would make a statement from our town council that we really need to consider other people and be considerate and for the greater good. And unfortunately, I'm disheartened in our federal government and our state government, and disheartened in the American people that have been divided in half on this, which makes it really difficult at that point to sit up here because you just don't have a directive. It winds up being a coin toss. And so that's where I'm at.
Ms. Condon.
I still have no idea how I'm going to vote. I can't talk with this. I will.
Go ahead and take it off, Ms. Condon. I got my mask on.
Well, okay, good. This is the hardest vote we may ever have to make. And I don't know, for the greater good, I think we ought to ask people to wear a mask. But we're not asking, we're telling them, do this, because we're saying it. I wear it. I think it's a good idea. I hope other people wear it. But I don't know how I'm going to vote. I'm going to wait and hear how Kelly's going to vote, and then I'll decide.
Mr. Mayor?
That's fine. Round two, and I get to go first,
Yes, sir.
and then I'll call on you, okay? Thank you very much. Mr. Danielson, I did not know about your daughter. I'm praying for her, and I hope that she overcomes this COVID virus. As you know, I have pre-existing conditions, and I don't know about the conservative voters in Lexington County, how they won't bring it up for a vote, Mr. Danielson, but I do know that coronavirus doesn't care if you're a conservative, a liberal, a Democrat, a Republican, a white man, a black man. It does not discriminate. I know for a fact that people are getting this disease and they're overcoming it. Apparently a good majority of them. But people are getting it and they're dying. All we're saying to folks is that in Lexington, in Richland County, in the city of Columbia, in town of Lexington, and wherever else they pass the law around here, that when you go into a business out in public, you are required to wear a mask for a certain amount of time. I believe it's 60 days in our ordinance. And we want you to do that because we want you to protect yourself and protect somebody else from potentially getting sick from you, because you don't know if you got the COVID virus or not. You haven't had the test. You don't know if you have it now. You don't know if you picked it up along the way. But that's not politicizing something that's going to save somebody's life. I thoroughly disagree with that point with you, Mr. Danielson. You call it politicizing. I call it attempting to save one person's life, and it may be mine. It may be anybody on this council, because you don't know who has it and who doesn't. I can tell you that I know that I have been told by many people, many doctors, many people on the front line in the hospitals, that if we don't get this under control in South Carolina, Kelly is absolutely right. If he has to go, if I have a heart attack or got to go to the emergency room, there may not be any room for me in the emergency room in the hospital because it's filled up with COVID patients. In fact, I'm scared to even go to the hospital because it's filled with COVID patients. I don't want to risk getting the COVID virus from there. So it's not politicizing anything. The President of the United States should have took the lead and mandated this. The governor should have took the lead and mandated it.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, you just politicized it.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. The governor should have made this call, but he left it to us to do. If you call that politicizing it, if you're calling it politicizing, so be it, okay? But it's not politicizing it when we're saving one life. Mr. Sickinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your passion, Councilman Danielson. I'm not, just as a point of order, I'm not a sheep either. Fair enough. Mutual respect, and we can disagree, and yeah, I know you do. I just want to make it clear to everyone else that we can passionately disagree but still respect each other, which we do. That said, anyway, continuing. We talk about the power and control and rules. Well, there's already a rule, as I said earlier, about shirt, shoes, and no service. We have rules about disposal of waste. We have rules about disposal of chemicals because of the impact that can have on other people. We have rules about tall grass because if it gets out of control, you can have vermin and pests. So it's in that same vein that it is for the greater good. And what I was voted in to do was to preserve and defend and protect our town and our people. And frankly, if we're talking about peer pressure, I really don't know what point we're going to get to until our town people finally start making, I don't know how that would look, because I've seen enough videos of people going into Costco and what that peer pressure looks like. Generally, not our local Costco. I don't want to wait until it's so bad that even the most stringent people who don't want to wear a mask are forced to wear one because people are dropping dead. And that's an exaggeration, but to prove a point. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, may I add one point?
Mr. Danielson.
Thank you. Again, I try to do, and I apologize if I offended. I didn't mean to offend anybody, but I am passionate about this and didn't realize I would become this passionate. But I tried to glean all my information on the boots level, ground level, what's going on. Again, I am 100% behind wearing masks. I know you're not missing my point. I know you're not missing that point. The point is the mandate of the mask. And if we're doing it for 60 days, so be it. You all decide to do it for 60 days. I had outpatient surgery last Friday at Lexington Medical Center. I was stoned Friday night, stoned all day Saturday, and I'm here today because I was not going to miss this meeting. And before I was stoned, prior to whatever they did to me, I had a long conversation with many of the nurses. I had 7 nurses and 2 doctors come in to me pre-surgery. Spoke to at least 5 of them regarding this very subject and asking, how are you all doing? Are you healthy? What can we do? What can we do, even though you're over here in West Columbia, but what can we do in the town? And spoke about the fact that, matter of fact, I think I wore one of my councilman shirts there. And how are you all doing? And they said, we are doing well. Those people were joyous. This is outpatient surgery now, okay? Those people were joyous, they were pleasant, they were smiling, they were happy, and they had not one case of COVID come through that whole wing. Not one. So I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means, but that's what they told me.
Did they have masks on?
They had masks on, but no shields, they had the rule. I had a mask on as I laid there being prepped. And just in case any of you wondered, it's not serious. I'm going to be okay. I didn't want to go there, but it was an experience. I tried to gain, that's the first thing I wanted to hear from them. I've been struggling with this for however long we've decided. But, none, not one. I'm figuring they're telling me, they're dropping like flies. It's what I expected, that they were getting cases and people were getting sick. Now, granted, it's outpatient, but it's an entire wing. It's a surgical wing and not a case. So, again, it all factors in, and then with the daughter, and then a very good friend, Jimbo Koutsis, who is on Facebook. Any of you can look it up, from his hospital room, July 3rd. the sickest guy I've seen in a long time, and he's the healthiest guy I've ever known. I've known him for 25 years. So I'm pained. I'm completely pained, but I have to go with what I think is correct. Please wear your masks. And that's my personal experience. And I've shared with you things I would never share, and now it's out in the public, and I'll have to deal with that.
Okay, Mr. Bush?
The only thing I would want to do is, and I don't know if you can do this on a one reading, but to make a motion to amend it to a 30-day limit so that we have to revisit it every month versus extending it out 60 days. But
I really, Mr. Bush, yes, you can make that amendment. In fact, I was going to do the exact same amendment, but if you make that motion,
when I make that motion, and it sounds like there may be a second in my future.
okay. Mr. Bush made a motion to change the sunset clause in the ordinance from, I believe it's 60 days. I'm looking for it. Hold on a second. That's on section 7. Section 10. Yeah, section 10. To modify it for emergency order for one or more additional terms, each no more than 60 days, provided the total number of duration shall not exceed 6 months. All right, change 60 to 30. Is that right, Mr. Bush?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
To expire the 31st day.
right. So Mr. Bush made a motion to change 60 to 30. And keep in mind that we have the orchestra coming up in September. So I guess we had made that requirement that if we do that one-day orchestra, we're requiring the people to wear PPE masks and stuff like that. So we're gonna have to revisit this.
I just want to have to revisit it every month so that it keeps us on point. And if there's a drastic reduction in cases and some,
The Saharan dust causes it all to go away.
yes, if that happens, it will expire in 30 days. Otherwise, we will revisit this, have another debate, and reinitiate the mask ordinance. I think it deserves debate on a 30-day.
Okay.
60
I,
days.
s- I second
Moved
that.
in second. Any more comments about the amendment? Mr. Sickinger?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to be in. I didn't think I was going to be in favor, but Mr. Mayor, but I think I don't think anybody's opinion is going to be changed in 30 days, but the facts on the ground may change in 30 days. And in fact, well, I don't want to speak for anyone else, but if it works, if it's not working, if things are getting worse. I mean, clearly, we're not going to say, okay, everybody take off your masks and your goggles and, go run around in the streets together. If in 30 days it's, we're continuing on this ramp, then I can't see that we would rescind it. But if somehow there's a magical turn, we should consider it. So I guess I'm in favor of that.
Mr. Danielson? We're talking about the amendment now.
Yeah, not in favor.
No difference? Okay. Ms. Condon? The amendment.
I'm not in favor.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Okay, we're voting on the amendment from 60 to 30 days. All in favor of the amendment to change the amendment from 60 days to 30 days, raise your right hand. All
Are
opposed?
you raising your hand?
Huh?
Did you raise your hand?
Say it again?
Were you raising your hand?
I did.
Okay,
Is that okay?
that's fine.
All opposed? 3-2, amendment passes. We're changing the 60 to 30 days. A couple other things. Thank you, Mr. Bush. We don't have any penalty in here for businesses if they don't comply. However, The Palmetto Pride program that the governor announced has penalties built in. In other words, right now, each restaurant or business has to have a sticker that says that they are PPP CDC certified, and they apply for that sticker and they put it on their door or their window. So when customers come up, they can see that this business is complying with the governor's mandate to wear masks, to sanitize, to wear gloves where needed, whatever they're interacting with people. That Palmetto Pride certificate will act as a sort of a visual barrier for people coming into businesses that don't comply to the wearing of the mask and stuff. I was wondering if there's any reason why we didn't include a penalty for businesses not complying in here. Does anybody have any reason for that?
Could I just get a point of clarification? So part of Irmo is in Richland County, and does Richland County's ordinance effectively have a penalty
No,
for businesses?
no, it doesn't. Richland County ordinances are for unincorporated county. Anything that's in the county that's incorporated with the Irmo boundaries are not affected by what Richland passes. Now, we can get clarification from our
Yeah, I'd like to
attorney
get
if you'd like.
clarification from the attorney as to whether or not the Richland County ordinance supersedes the town as far as the part of town that's in Richland County.
Can you speak into the mic, Mr. Moore, or come to?
County ordinance does not apply within the corporate limits of the town of Irmo.
Point of clarification. Oh, I'm sorry.
Basically, the ordinance passed by Richland County does not apply here, in my humble opinion. So if Irmo was going to have an ordinance, it would need to pass an ordinance. The Richland County has jurisdiction within the corporate limit, within the limits of its jurisdiction, but it does not have the jurisdiction within municipal boundaries. So the ordinance passed by Richland County does not apply in the town of Irmo, in my opinion.
Could I follow that up with the chief and see if, just out of curiosity, how would you see that as well? Just because this is so new and so.
Yeah, I would have to agree with the attorney on this one.
Okay.
We have,
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. All right. Ms. Condon, you said you're okay with this, or ready to vote? Or?
I'm gonna vote, yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, my whole thing was, but the Palmetto Pride certificate that will be issued by the state on all businesses complying with the CDC's guidelines and the governor's mandates will self-regulate businesses. If you go to a business and you don't see it, then, you know, it is what it is.
May I make a comment about that? I think you're right. That is exactly what it's doing. And it also has an area in there where people can email in.
I'm sorry.
It has an area in the software where people can email into that Palmetto Pride thing
Right.
and tell them about violations when they go into a restaurant.
Right.
That's another point of pure pressure making the restaurants toe the line for that. So that's all built into that system.
Okay. I think we debated this long enough. Any more final comments, Mr. Sickinger? I'm calling on you for a final thought.
Yeah, no, but I appreciate the lively debate among the council.
Okay. All right. So we modified it from 60 days to 30 days. Will the clerk read the roll for approval of this ordinance?
Yay.
Nay.
Yay.
Yay. Ordinance passes 3-2. All right.
You know, to be real honest, I knew it was gonna pass. And that gave me the confidence to vote no, because I knew it did.
You knew it was going to pass, so it gave you the confidence to vote against it?
Because I do agree with Mr. Danielson about all the things he said,
Right?
but
What about the citizens' health?
I wear a mask everywhere I go, you know, I believe in it, I think it's good, but I hate to tell people what to do.
Well, I don't think it's telling people, I think it's leading. That's what they hired us to do, is lead. But I respect your opinion.
Thank you,
Point of order,
I appreciate it.
Yes, Mr.
let's keep this thing rolling.
Your point of order. All right. Approval to award contract to AccuSweep in the amount of $9,926.40 to clean all residential roadways within the town limits of Irmo. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Sickinger,
Second.
Mr. Danielson, second. Is there any conversation? This is pretty straightforward.
This was in the budget, didn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Already-
this is in the budget, and we haven't had our roads cleaned in, what, 20, 30 years? Residential ones. And I mean, when I say clean, physically have the road street sweepers go through all the subdivisions and sweep the roads. In fact, we're even getting participation from Harbison Association to help clean some of those roads that are conjoined over in Harbison and Irmo, so. Right. So it's a win-win. Mrs. Sickinger?
Yeah, I want to take the opportunity to also mention, if you see trash along the road in your community, you are more than welcome to go and clean it up. I'm not saying that as a point at somebody. I saw some complaints on Facebook page, and so I had some free time on a Saturday, and I went out and drove down Chadford and picked up some trash. Get together with some friends and help clean up the community that you care about.
Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand.
I wanted to
sorry.
speak on that, and
I thought you were done.
to your point, I have noticed a lot of citizens in Irmo picking trash up and keeping their neighborhoods clean, and I'd like to make a shout out to them and suggest that that's a wonderful thing, and if you ever see one, wave to them and say thanks. The only other concern I have is as the street sweeper goes through that they don't suck all the cold patch out of the potholes we have. Is this going to be a gentle sweeping, or does anybody know? So, do we want to tack another $1,000 on this for the cold patch? All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. All right. Anybody else? Okay, great. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, unanimous. Approval to purchase a Hustler Super Z72, basically a lawnmower. And this has been requested by town staff vis-a-vis Whit Klein. He wants to buy another Mac Daddy tractor.
I so moved.
She's so moved. Okay, that's one vote. Any other comments? Second. You seconded? Okay. All right. Any comments?
I just have one, Mr. Klein, that if you're trying to get 16 large, you should at least have a picture of it for us to look at.
Oh, I swear.
Thanks.
With the job they do,
Is this electric or
no.
it's not Tesla model or anything like that? Okay.
With the job they do, which I think is exemplary, I want them to have all the equipment they need.
And you're gonna look for grants next time, right?
Oh, Lord.
You're gonna ask, I've asked that before, you're gonna at least investigate it, right? Thank you, Mr. Klein. Any more comments? All in favor of the purchase of that Hustler tractor? Raise your right hand. All opposed? That's 4-1. You didn't have any comments, Mr. Signature? No. Okay. Close, approval to close a portion of St. Andrews Road, Woodrow Street, Carlisle Street, Columbia Avenue, and Lexington Avenue for the 2020 Orchestra Parade and Festival. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Condon, second. Mr. Sickens, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I sure hope we can have it.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, I'm in favor, to be clear. Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Condon?
I agree. I hope that the numbers are down enough that we're comfortable enough to have this. It would be a shame, but it's not worth somebody's life. So, yeah, I'm in favor of this, and I hope we're doing well by then.
You know what I want to ask you, right?
What? About my vote on the mayor?
Yeah.
But that's a political thing. I was with Mr. Danielson. Every word he said, I was with him.
All right. But I still respect your vote. And
Thank you.
All right. Any more comments, Mr. Bush? Okay, all in favor of the closing of the roads, raise your right hand. All opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, this is a portion of the meeting. Thank you very much, council. This is a portion of the meetings where citizens can come and ask questions on anything they would like to ask council. Remember that this is a presentation from you to us. You have 3 minutes to make your presentation about anything that you want the council to know. This is not a debate, and this is not a personal attack on anybody on what we voted on. Keep it respectful. Is there anybody who would like to make closing comments to the council? Mr. Moore. Thank you, Mr. Moore, and I appreciate you coming tonight.
I'm happy to be here as always.
Can you pull that mic up there so we can make sure we get you? Thank you, sir.
I'm obviously very happy to be here. I would like to take just 2 seconds to thank Whit Klein and the Public Works Department. After many months of trying, and the rain finally cooperated, and the grass is in. The Arbor Day Committee, I think, paid for it. I know it did because I wrote the check. But Whit and his staff did the work down at Harbison at the entrance to Quail Valley. I hope you will all look at the grass. It's pretty. And I am happy to report that at long last, the $12,000 project at the Quail Valley Swim and Racket Club that we have been working on is now complete. If you get an opportunity, ride by. The citizens of Quail Valley, I think, are incredibly proud of that work. Have you seen it, Kathy? I just wanted to let you know that work is done. That has also taken us about a year to a year and a half to get in, and we are very proud to have it done. So, thank you.
Mr. Moore, I drove past Harbison and Country Square yesterday just to see how it's impressive. It is really pretty, and thank you.
Whit Klein is an artist. We've been trying to do in West Columbia what's been done in Irmo, and the reason we can't make it do quite as well is because we have Whit. It's the most amazing human being I've ever seen, and I just so much value what he has done for this town, and he makes it so easy for us to work with the town as far as providing funds for the beautification. It is very pretty, but when Whit does it, it's always pretty. Thanks.
Is there any other citizens who would like to address council? Okay. Seeing none, discussion, there is no discussion. Executive session, we don't have an executive session. I'd like to just add this one thing that, we have some tough decisions to make on this council, and tonight was an example of one of them. Regardless of how you voted, I still respect y'all. I respect everybody on this council, and I know that y'all respect me. And, you know, we are elected to lead this town. And if we can save one life for the next 30 days, it's well worth it. And in fact, like you said, we'll come back and look at it again in 30 days, and we might extend it if it's not any better. But I think that this town is better off with this council making those tough decisions and not going after each other's neck about it. And I appreciate that. Bill, again, I apologize. I didn't know about your daughter. I'm praying for her, and I hope that she overcomes it. We all are. I hope that she overcomes this coronavirus. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Mr. Sickinger made a motion. Mr. Bush seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Meeting is over.